The one that I'm actually considering pushing down, if I would like push down, probably Ellen might go down to T0.5 a little bit more. I am tempted to push Lucy up. At this point, Soldier 11 is underrated. I do think so. Because of the floor actually favors her a little bit. So we're going to talk about the tier list, and I'm also going to be inputting my own personal thoughts of the Pride Win tier list that everyone uses for the EN global version. First off, the new changes in the tier list is we have Bernie's entry into T0 at M0. Overall, I think okay, what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with Bernie's in T0 after seeing what you have seen today? Bernie's Disorder T0, yes. Solo, don't know. Hell yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty nice. Overall, I think it's pretty good. I agree with this the T0 Bernie's over here, especially in like Disorder teams. That is quite impressive. Both Ellen and Zhu Yuan, even though they have like these icons on them and stuff, at the end of the day, currently Shu defends the final stage. It was still weak to Ice and Aether, right? I think watch icon means that they are watching it carefully whether they might get demoted or something like that to see whether they are still relevant in the meta. So I agree that Ellen and Zhu Yuan still are both T0 because currently Shu defends final node, first half that just reset today, are still Ice and Aether weakness. So you're playing Ice and Aether in the first half, Fire and Physical in the second half, which means your physical characters, your fire characters all should be bumped up. And the only characters that are not appreciated is like technically who else is not? Which is the only other element that's not? That's like almost everyone, right? Am I missing something? Is it Electric? Is Electric lonely now? So yeah, generally across the board, you should see Electric being slightly lower and everything else generally should be higher because of the final floor weakness. Jane Doe definitely T0. She tackles the second floor. It's made for her. The Brute is just so weak against a fast-moving character like Assault. I agree with Caesar. So these four characters, I agree. The one that I'm actually considering pushing down, if I would like push down, probably Ellen might go down to T0.5 a little bit more. I feel like Zhu Yuan was slightly more useful. But then again, the monster was the guy with the shield, right? In the final node. So Ellen is like quite decent against that monster because he's relatively slow. So I think like these five characters will be here. Ting Yi, I would say she still remains here, even though she's electric. She offers a lot more than just a lot of the other stuff. Mostly ice resistance stages. From 1 to 6, there's a lot of ice resistance stages. So I agree. But the final node is the one that usually is like the hardest. So if we are basing rating based on the final stage alone, I think this top row is fair, is very fair. If you are basing based on like, because I have all of the characters and I decide who I use, Ellen feels like the least useful out of these 6 right now. And I could easily see a case for pushing her down to T0.5. As you guys saw, like we didn't really like want to use Ellen a lot of times. Even the times that we used Ellen, she wasn't exactly the best. It's just because it was ice weakness on the floor. It does feel a little bit slower nowadays, but yeah, those are my thoughts. Because of Ellen's lack of use, I can see Lycan being in tier 0.5. Because previously Lycan was always tier 0 because she was always around. So Lycan was always bumped up. But now with Ellen's disappearance, I feel like if they wanted to put Lycan at T0.5, Ellen should be brought down together side by side with Lycan. So it has to be consistent. If you are rating Lycan 0.5, I think Ellen should be going down because they play definitely in the same teams. But I mean, you could say like, oh yes, Ellen and Ting Yi in the same team. So maybe for that excuse, if you are saying that you have Ting Yi and you have Ellen, you play them together, then maybe you could say that Lycan is like not as useful because you probably can just like make do with Ting Yi to have Ellen, even though there's Ice Rest Shred. But it's a bit stretching it. But I think so far, this 7, I agree. If you account for the fact that the stretch of like Ting Yi can be played with Ellen and stuff like that. For these 3, on the other hand, I feel Lucy deserves to go up. I am tempted to push Lucy up. I feel like Fire now is like so good. Shui favoritism shouldn't be considered. Meta is dependent on the thing that gives you polychromes. So by having your meta determined based on your Shui defense and being biased on the Shui defense is correct. Because that is the meta that shifts. And tier list is a meta shifting thing. So back in the days, Zila was like meta, now she's not, and stuff like that because of the situation in the Memory of Chaos, Apocalyptic Shadow and stuff. So being biased towards Shui defense is correct, is the right way to go. At least that's what I feel. But I feel that Lucy goes up because second half is now weak to fire. I am tempted to put Lucy in tier 0. So this is probably the first disagreement that I think. I think Lucy is at M6, definitely T0. Nicole, I feel also deserves a T0 spot because Zhu Yuan is still here. In the first half, Zhu Yuan is still very, very strong. And if you don't play Ice in the first half, it's weak to Aether, which is a Zhu Yuan flaw. So you have to play either one. In that case, I feel like Nicole deserves going up because her CC is also very good in the first part. And Lucy goes up. So these two, I would say go up. So Kaku needs to go down for you. She's so slow. But this is tough though. She is a little bit slower and stuff, but if you have your Lycan at T0.5, they all form the same team. And they tackle the first half very well. So I don't see a case for her bringing lower. She is on this eye icon here that they did declare that maybe she can go lower. But for this rotation, first half is still weak to ice. So I do see a case like you can have ice in the first half. So I would say like she's more or less like still same here. Ice, 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 ice. But yeah. I still think these two go up. I don't mind Sokaku at T0.5. I think that's fine. Soldier 11 at T1. I feel that with the second half being weak to fire, if you don't have Jane Doe, you don't have Bernice, Soldier 11 now becomes viable, right? With a Soldier 11 Lucy team, Caesar already replaces Sokaku and Ellen teams as they have the same buff. But I mean, you will probably be playing Caesar in the second half. And Ellen, if you're running Lycan, your last slot is open for Sokaku. You could run Caesar and Lycan together, but most people will want to run like Caesar in the second half. She just stuns slower than Lycan, that's for sure though. Okay, I still feel that the ice team, the full ice team is still very, very usable. And doubling down on like Caesar putting in one team, you might as well just like split your resources out unless you have like Ting-Yi, Lycan, and Caesar all together. Soldier 11, Caesar, and Lucy clear second half so easily. I wouldn't be surprised. Because the second half is very weak to physical and fire. So I actually disagree with the third character that I disagree other than Lucy and Nicole. I think Soldier 11 deserves to move up to at least 0.5 because of the fire weakness. If you don't have Jane Doe, you don't have Bernice, there's nothing much that you really have to address the second half right now. Other than maybe forcing a Piper Anomaly. And Soldier 11 is actually pretty decent even at M0. At this point, Soldier 11 is underrated. I do think so. Because of the floor actually favors her a little bit. The buffs might not, but the elemental typing finally is like Fire's turn, right? Grace as well as Piper. I feel Grace sits rightly in T1 because Electric is like kind of meh now, for now at least. There is no real need for Electric. So I would say Grace T1 I can understand. Piper, okay, I would say she's also quite befitting on T1. Jane Doe is a lot more smoother to play, a lot faster. Piper is a little bit clunkier, not as efficient. I mean, it is favoring her style, but I think if Soldier 11 is on T0.5, Piper shouldn't be on the same tier as Soldier 11. So these two, I agree. Grace, Piper M6, I do agree. Alright, so these two, Anbi and Collider. Chat was saying that it's criminal to put this side by side. I agree. The one that goes up should be actually Collider. It's a fire floor, and we have to factor this in. We can't, these two together makes no sense. Electric is at the deficit because there's nothing in the final node weak to Electric. And this one here, Collider is like very strong in the current rotation. So I am tempted of bringing her up to at least tier 0.5. Maybe putting her same tier as like Ting is a bit of stretching it, but I would probably put her in the same category as Lycan. Why is that the case? Because Caesar can be played in the first half, together with like Zhu Yuan or Ellen as a DPS. And then your Collider fits very nicely in the second half. So 0.5, I think, is quite fair for Collider team. I'm pretty sure a Soldier 11, Lucy, and Collider team does very well in the second half. Especially because the enemy is very weak on fire this time around. So I would have put her a bit higher, but then Ting-Yi is like here. Ting-Yi and Collider just feels a bit different. She does increase a lot of damage, Ting-Yi herself, and has very good flex mobility. Seth is a tricky one though. Seth technically buffs and shields. So the reason why I'm actually thinking about Seth a little bit, because the floor buff benefits Seth's kit very well. Seth for Anomaly is great, and this is like an Anomaly season, right? So you get two buffs in the current Shi defense. One is if you are shielded, you do more damage. I think Anomaly build up or something like that. And second one is if enemy is suffering for Anomaly build up, you get more damage. You're dealing more damage against them or something like that. So it's a Caesar and Bernice buff floor. Technically, Seth plays into both of them. So because of that, I am tempted to move him up also to 0.5. Like Seth goes up. Because if you don't have Caesar, you can easily run Seth in the second half with a team of like Jane Doe, Bernice if you wanted to. And you'll probably get a very good utility from that also. Although Electric is not his like flavor, not his style. But he definitely deserves to go up 0.5 because of every buff really suiting him. Anbi... I forgot Anbi, right? I skipped over. I think Anbi... I can see if people want to like bring her down to 1.5. I can understand because there's nothing like great about Electric this time. She's the only accessible stun character. Everything else is standard or limited. So because of lack of accessibility and the importance of stun, I still think Anbi, there's a case like Anbi can still be like T1. So the last one is the easiest, right? This one here, I feel like Ben deserves a bit higher this time. He's of a fire team. So I can see people running Soldier 11, running Lucy and Ben. So Ben, I think, can go up because he gives you that shield. So he gives you a lot of utility to help you prop the buffs already. I feel like Ben can be in tier 1.5 or 1. This is way too low. Tier 2 is way too low. I just don't know where to place him because placing him in the same tier as Grace and Piper does feel a bit of a stretch. So I would just move him up 1.5 just to be modest. But this is technically a very good Shui defense for Ben lovers because second half is weak to fire. All your fire DPSs like Bernice, like Soldier 11, all like it a lot. Other than that, the one that stands out to me most is like Rena. I feel like Rena is very, very underrated. I think Rena, no matter what, whether it's electric or not, she deserves a tier 1 at the very minimum. You are saying that Rena is weaker than all of these characters by a massive 3 tiers. She's on the same level as your Neko Mata, which is, I feel a bit of a stretch. I feel a little bit of a stretch. These two, simple, move up 1 tier. Whether they go higher, I think that's up for debate. Tier 1.5, 2 over here, this section here, I don't have too many comments for these units. The main one I want to talk about is Anton. Anton used to be like much higher. He's now a bit lower because enemies are not weak to shock. I agree. T1.5, I can see Anton being here. But the other two, like Billy and Corin, these three, I believe they are a little bit more usable in this current rotation because of the enemy's weakness to physical. If you don't have Jane, these 3 characters are definitely a little bit more interesting. Corin, I feel definitely goes up, at least into tier 1.5 with the other 3 of these. These 3 should go hand in hand. And right now, the 3 physical feel better than Anton. Tier list. I think it's very great. I think the accuracy of this is so good. The only thing is this doesn't catch out the key Shui defense changes that just happened today. So first row, all okay. Alan, I see a case going down if you factor in from Shui 1 to 7. Because 1 to 6 are very, very resistant to ice in this rotation for some reason. It's as if they're prepping us to rotate out of Alan soon. So I see a case for all these here most of the time, at least in the final note of Shui 7 critical. All these 4 here in the second tier 0.5, Lucy and Nicole up for sure. There's not much alternatives for them. Lucy is just really good in the second half right now for the current notes. Nicole in the first half. Sokaku, people are saying slow. I think it's fine at this point because there's not much other alternatives other than like Caesar for Allen teams. Soldier 11 on this tier 1. Soldier 11 goes up to 0.5 at least. She's very strong in the second half. If you do not have Jane, you do not have Bernice, you're not playing these characters, Soldier 11 was very fine because of the second half, very weak to fire. Especially if you already probably have a bit of Lucy, you can just slap on them together. You'll get quite a good utility. For these 5 units over here, Grace, Piper, I think they are rightfully sitting in tier 1. Now Electric is not that strong. The final note is weak to everything except Electric in either the first and second half put together. Unbi Demara, T1 is fine. Collider goes up to 0.5. Seth goes up to 1. Why Collider goes up is fire weakness on second half. She does feel equally, if not stronger than Lycan, especially if you are playing with Soldier 11. Seth goes up. Everything in the floor buff benefits him a lot. There's a shielding buff, there's an anomaly buff. Both of them are Seth. The only thing that he doesn't benefit from is his element, but it doesn't really matter that much. For T1.5, the lower part is the easier part, right? Corin up, same with the physical. And Anton probably like the lowest out of all of them. Electric is not very good now, especially for DPS. These two, Ben and Rena, both up by 1 at least. You could argue a case for higher, but let's just be modest here. Rena is still Electric, not that great. We don't have an Electric DPS, so I would say still not as useful as when we do have an Electric DPS. Ben, Fire, is good in second half, provides shield to help you prop the Shui buff, and works decently well with Soldier 11 teams as well. So that's the overall rating that will change from this tier list that they have here after introducing Bernice as well. But I think it's an overall pretty decent tier list to a good starting point still. Just that maybe it doesn't factor in the current rotation as much.